I still remember the exact moment my husband looked me in the eyes and told the world I was unstable. It was the same day he signed papers trying to take control of my inheritance, the one left to me by my late father. I thought marriage meant trust, but in a single week, he turned me into a stranger in my own life. He told my family I was paranoid, emotional, and dangerous to myself. Then he convinced them I needed help while moving my assets behind my back. I didn't understand how quickly people I loved started believing him instead of me. Even my own sister stopped answering my calls. But what he didn't know was that I had already started documenting everything. Every lie, every signature, every conversation. And when the truth came in court, he realized too late that I was never the broken one in this story. I never thought my marriage would turn into a courtroom battle for my own identity. It started small, like most betrayals do, with subtle changes in how he treated me. He began asking strange questions about my inheritance from my father, things he never cared about before. I told myself it was just curiosity, but now I know it was calculation. The first time he suggested I was too emotional to manage money, I laughed it off. But that laugh would later be used against me in ways I never imagined. He started documenting my moods, my stress, even normal disagreements, twisting them into signs of instability. I didn't know he was building a case while pretending to be my husband. The day I saw him speaking privately with my sister, something inside me cracked. That was the moment I started paying attention to everything. What I discovered over the next few weeks would change my life forever. I began keeping records of every conversation, every document, every suspicious detail I noticed. I wasn't paranoid anymore. I was prepared, and that difference saved me later in court. But I still didn't know how far he was willing to go. Yet the turning point came when he insisted I meet a psychiatrist just to confirm everything was fine. I remember sitting in that sterile office, thinking I was there for support, not sabotage. He had already spoken to the doctor before I even arrived. That realization made my stomach drop in a way I can't describe. The doctor asked me questions that felt strangely leading, almost rehearsed. I answered honestly, unaware that every word was being interpreted against me. Within days, my husband presented a concern report to my family. They looked at me differently after that. My phone calls started going unanswered one by one. I felt like I was disappearing from my own life. He even suggested I temporarily move out for my safety. That was when I realized this wasn't concern, it was control. I refused to leave my home, which made him escalate faster. He began locking me out of financial accounts I once managed freely. I quietly contacted a lawyer, pretending everything was still normal. My lawyer told me to keep acting calm while gathering undeniable proof. So I smiled in front of him while building the case that would destroy his story, carefully every day. The breaking point came when I was served with legal papers claiming I was mentally unfit. They used my own husband's testimony as evidence against me. I felt the ground disappear beneath me. But I wasn't helpless. I was just outnumbered at first. My lawyer immediately filed for access to all financial records. What we discovered was worse than I imagined. He had already transferred parts of my inheritance into hidden accounts. Each transaction was carefully disguised under fake approvals. It was deliberate, calculated, and deeply illegal. The court battle began within weeks. He arrived confident, acting like the concerned husband everyone believed. I arrived with folders of evidence thicker than his lies. The judge looked at both of us without emotion. But I could feel the truth building beneath the surface. My sister avoided my eyes the entire time. That hurt more than anything else. I realized I wasn't just fighting for money, but for my sanity and reputation. So I prepared for everything he hadn't thought through yet. Every document, every message, every hidden transfer was organized carefully, and I knew the truth was finally catching up to him. Fast, the courtroom became a battlefield of perception. He painted me as unstable, emotional, unfit. I sat calmly, letting him dig his own grave. My lawyer began cross-examination with precision. Every question dismantled his narrative piece by piece. The psychiatrist he hired was called to testify. But what they didn't expect was my recorded sessions. Yes, I had secretly recorded conversations legally in my state. The room shifted the moment the audio played. My husband's voice filled the courtroom, contradicting his claims. He went silent for the first time. The judge leaned forward, suddenly more attentive. I watched his confidence crumble slowly. My sister finally looked at me, shocked, but I didn't look back. The evidence kept unfolding like a story he forgot he was writing. Bank records, emails, and messages aligned perfectly against him. The courtroom murmured as the truth became undeniable. He tried to speak, but his lawyer stopped him. For once, he had no control over the narrative. I could feel years of pain turning into clarity. The judge ordered a full forensic financial audit. He looked at me like he finally saw me, but it was too late for apologies. The truth had already spoken for me. After the hearing, everything moved quickly in my favor. Frozen accounts were restored under court supervision. My husband's hidden transfers were traced across multiple banks. Investigators found intentional fraud. It was no longer just a divorce case. It became a criminal investigation. He tried to settle privately, but I refused. I wanted truth, not silence. My lawyer smiled for the first time in months. That's when I knew we were winning. My sister finally apologized, but I didn't respond immediately. I needed time to process everything. The man I trusted had rewritten my entire life story, but now I was rewriting it back. The court ordered restitution of all stolen assets. He was placed under strict legal restrictions. I watched from a distance as his world collapsed. There was no satisfaction, only clarity. I didn't want revenge anymore. I just wanted peace. But the truth had already done what I needed. People who doubted me began to see the truth. Even the judge acknowledged the manipulation. It was documented beyond denial, and every lie collapsed under evidence. He lost everything he built on deception. I walked out of court finally free. For the first time, years, freedom didn't feel like celebration at first. It felt like exhaustion. I had survived something I never thought I would. But survival changes you in ways people don't see. I stopped answering calls from people who doubted me. I focused on rebuilding my life piece by piece. My lawyer helped me secure everything legally restored. The investigation into my husband continued without my involvement. That distance gave me peace. I moved into a smaller apartment away from memories. Quiet became something I valued. I started therapy to untangle everything I lived through. The truth was heavy but necessary. My sister visited once crying. I forgave her, but trust didn't return instantly. Some wounds take longer to heal. I learned that manipulation often hides behind love, and that trust must be earned, not assumed. I began speaking publicly about financial abuse. Other women reached out with similar stories. I realized I wasn't alone in this kind of betrayal. The experience changed how I see relationships forever. I became stronger, but also more cautious. Peace was no longer negotiable. I refused to let anyone rewrite my reality again. My story became my strength, and I finally understood my worth. Never again. Truly free. If there's one thing this entire nightmare taught me, it's that silence can protect abusers just as much as lies do. I used to believe love meant trust without question, but I learned the hard way that blind trust can be dangerous. What happened to me wasn't just betrayal, it was a calculated attempt to erase my voice, my identity, and my future. But I survived it, and survival gave me something he never expected: clarity and strength. The court didn't just restore my assets, it restored my truth in front of everyone who doubted me. And while I lost people along the way, I gained something far more important: myself. I don't share this story for sympathy, but so someone out there recognizes the warning signs before it's too late. If you're going through something similar, document everything, trust instincts, and never let anyone define your reality for you.